We're not having a white Christmas this year, we're having a red Christmas. Welcome back to WWH. My name is Andrew Dreamer, and today we're starting a small review series of Christmas horror movies. I struggled to decide which one I wanted to start with and eventually landed on Red Christmas, a movie I first watched a few years ago that has stuck with me ever since. You know, that happens sometimes. You watch a movie and for whatever reason, you always remember it, even if the movie itself isn't that great. Red Christmas is an Australian horror film released in 2016, was directed by Craig Anderson, who also wrote the film. It stars Dee Wallace, the woman who played virtually every movie mom in the 1980s. Dee Wallace is also going to be appearing in an upcoming movie my friend is working on, which I think is really cool. With that being said, let's jingle all the way down to the ring and get this show started. The film opens up with America's mom making breakfast for her family. Diane, played by Dee Wallace, has 4 kids: Jenny, Susie, Hope, and Jerry. Jenny is married to Scott and is pregnant. Susie is married to a minister named Peter and has been unable to get pregnant. Jerry has Down syndrome and is probably my favorite character in the movie because of how happy and just how easygoing he is.
Shakespeare.
Oh, Romeo and Juliet.
I love you.
I love you.
Go make the eggnog.
Hope is adopted and is looking forward to art school. Also in the house is Diane's brother Joe, who has his vices but does everything he can to protect the family. I said all of that to point out that there are a lot of different dynamics in this family. But let's get back to the actual plot of the film. The family sits down to open presents and they decide to go around the room and say what they're thankful for. Jenny has a problem with this, and her sister Susie for that matter, as they start bickering. Jenny then lays it all out and tells everyone that she is angry at Diane for selling their house. She says their dad worked really hard to get it, and she's just cashing it in for a trip to Europe. Diane fires back that she's given a lot to her kids, and now it's time to do something for herself, which makes sense. I think she deserves that.
Dad worked his whole life for this place, and you're cashing it in for a package deal tour of Europe.
We're really gonna do this on Christmas?
Yeah.
They continue arguing until the doorbell rings and puts an end to the family drama, if only for a moment. At the door is a man wearing a cloak and bandages covering his skin. They invite him in despite how uneasy they all really feel. He says he's looking for his family and has a note to read to them. Diane gives him a jar of peanuts as a present as he starts reading.
I can't accept this present.
Well, you have to. It's a Christmas present.
Things seem fine until he mentions his father killing 2 people at a clinic 20 years ago. This sends Diane into a frenzy and she demands he leaves instantly.
Get out! You get him out! Get him out! Get him out of my house right now!
Joe literally drags him to the door and throws him out onto the ground. Diane then throws the jar of peanuts at him, hitting him in the head.
Don't you ever come back!
Jerry, Joe, get inside.
He begins sobbing and saying "mother" over and over. What they don't know is earlier this man named Cletus actually killed another man who was being mean to him. And when I say being mean to him, he literally tossed him onto the ground and took a leak on him. This guy had it coming, honestly. The family, still shaken up, attempts to go about their day and everything is business as usual, including Jenny and Susie continuing their verbal brawl.
I don't particularly care what Mum says. It's a meringue, so it belongs in the fridge.
Yeah, well, she made it, so why don't we let her decide?
That night, Hope is picking up things from the yard and finds the jar of peanuts. Once she realizes what it is, it's too late. See, she's severely allergic to peanuts and is standing on them, literally barefoot. She starts having a reaction before Cletus comes down on her head with an axe, literally bifurcating her with a single blow. By the way, if you like this review or my style of reviewing films, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn your notification bell on so you never miss an episode of WWH. I really appreciate it. The family discovers her body and frantically runs back inside as Cletus shuts off the power to the house. They immediately know who killed Hope, and Joe calls the sheriff for help. But of course, they live out in the country, so it'll be a while before he gets there. Joe grabs a flashlight and heads outside to grab a shotgun out of the shed. Inside the house, Scott is killed with another axe to the head. The others run out to the shed to hide. Joe's plan is to stay there since there's only one entrance and they have a gun, which seems like the best plan to me. Diane, on the other hand, wants to get the car keys so they can all escape. Eventually, after an argument, Joe leaves to go get the car and bring it to them. But Jenny is now hysterical and runs back into the house to get her husband, but she collapses on the stairs. Meanwhile, Joe did make it to the car, but Cletus was in the back seat and strangles Joe, killing him. If only they would have listened to you, Joe. Back inside the house, Jenny has gone into labor due to all of the stress and is taken upstairs.
She's gonna have the baby.
Oh, Joe's coming.
No, we can't go to the hospital now. It's too far.
If this review seems like it's all over the place, well, that's because the movie is. Another thing that doesn't make a lot of sense to me is how they all just run around the house knowing that Cletus could literally be anywhere in there. We'll touch more on that later, but I wanted to mention it here as well. Diane then finds a necklace that confirms what she's feared this entire time. She confides in Peter that 20 years ago she ended her pregnancy when she found out the baby had Down syndrome. Only the baby didn't die, and that baby is Cletus.
Cletus.
It's my baby.
She was scared to go through that again after having Jerry and knowing that her husband was sick and dying. Look, it's a very sensitive topic, and that revelation hit pretty hard. Diane then goes to set a trap for Cletus before the sheriff arrives, but it doesn't work. The sheriff gets out of his car and gets a bear trap around his neck for his troubles. The blood here is just spraying everywhere. Peter tries to shoot Cletus, but it doesn't exactly work either. Diane tries the same with the sheriff's gun. Yet again, doesn't work. She misses, despite being literally 2 feet away from him.
Open the door.
Peter is the next one killed as he is drugged into the kitchen. He tries to fight back, but meets his end via the spinning base of a blender. And during all of this, Jerry overheard Peter talking about what happened to Cletus and confronts his mother, who's in a closet. He hands her the gun before locking her back in the closet. He is completely distraught, which is very understandable. She gets out and she accidentally shoots Jerry and kills him because she thinks it's Cletus.
Mom?
Furious, she attacks Cletus and wounds him, but gets caught up in a chain that's wrapped around her neck. Upstairs, Susie helps Jenny finally deliver her baby before running downstairs when she hears Diane screaming. Cletus waits at the door and kills her with an umbrella through the head. Must have been a strong umbrella. Jenny hides in a giant stuffed rabbit when she hears Cletus coming, but gets gutted anyway because she can't keep herself quiet. Diane then stabs Cletus with an anchor that is attached to her neck and jumps out the window, hanging herself and ripping Cletus's insides out, leaving Jenny's baby as the sole survivor of the night's events. And that is where the movie ends. I have mixed feelings about this film every time I watch it. We're going to look at the positives and the negatives of Red Christmas, but first we do have to take a short break, so stick around and we'll be right back with more WWH action. If you're looking to save 20% off of your order from Redcon 1, I have a deal for you. All you have to do is use code AndrewDreamer at checkout and you will receive 20% off of your entire order. Also, head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/AndrewDreamer to check out some of my merchandise. You can get Andrew Dreamer t-shirts, you can get a Wrestling with Horror t-shirts. They're all really cool designs, so go check it out. And last but not least, head over to Patreon and consider becoming a member of the WWH Universe. There are a lot of really cool perks and we'd love to have you. Welcome back. We are headed back down to the ring for the positives. Dee Wallace is a national treasure, and her performance is amazing as always. She can be comforting, stern. She really is the perfect actor to play a mother, and that's been the case since the 80s. Most of the effects were also practical and looked pretty good, and the movie definitely had something to say. There's a strong message, though it's not really shoved down your throat. Yes, it is a catalyst for the story, but it's more in the back of your mind and not really talked about the entire time. I think it's respectable when a movie has something to say, regardless of your own opinions. I believe discussion is vastly important, and that's really all that this movie was trying to do in that regard. With that being said, let's switch over to the negatives now. I've got to talk about the blood. I'm glad it was practical, but it was over the top and ridiculous, specifically in the blender kill and the bear trap kill. It was almost Hatchet levels of ridiculous, and that's fine if that's the tone you're going for, but this movie wasn't going for that tone at all. The rest of the movie is very serious. Nothing is really played for humor, so it just felt out of place. Another issue I had was the lighting of the film. After a certain point, the entire thing is just bathed in red light. And I understand that the title of this movie is Red Christmas. I just found it distracting and annoying. And a lot of the editing was very choppy as well. And like I said earlier, the fact that they're all running around the house willy-nilly like there's not a serial killer, chasing them around the house. And aside from Diane and Jerry, I didn't like any of the characters. They're all aggravating and clearly meant to just boost the kill count. I'm going to leave it there though, so let me know down in the comments what you think about this movie. Alright, and that is going to do it for my review of Red Christmas. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. We have plenty more Christmas chaos coming your way very soon, but until then, my name is Andrew Dreamer, and this is Wrestling with Horror.